Welcome to the Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host. Here's our format. A bunch of guys sitting around a bar. There's no bar. Having drinks. There's no drinks either. But we're talking business, and you, the audience, are listening in. The Best of Investing is actually a radio show that has been around since August 2010, and it airs every Saturday on Fox News Radio, 9:10 a.m. at 1 p.m. Now, we're not a political show. We're strictly business, so everyone will be happy with that. Remember, I'm Edward Brown, wishing you the best of investing. Are you ready? Let's go. We have in the studio with us Peter Lagarius, who is a specialist with class action suits, or actually that's what we're going to be talking about today. So Mark, you were going to lead in with questions.
Yeah, we had, we talked last segment about how, oftentimes these class action suits are against large companies, and oftentimes it's for maybe an overcharging of a fee, and the payoff to the individual client's usually not that much. But can you give us some examples of class action suits where the payoffs were considerable to the participants?
Well, a good example is a group of Exxon franchisees filed a lawsuit regarding price conduct. They were getting gasoline and there were other charges involved, and that case actually was a class action that was tried in a court of law. It didn't settle, and it was enormous amounts of money because of the volume of transactions going on in a franchisee dealership.
How many franchisees were there?
I don't remember. You're putting me on the spot
but
for
it
the
can't
number.
Be millions. I mean,
No. There were probably thousands, but I'm not even certain of that. But there were many franchisees, and it was a class, and it went to trial. Wage and hour and misclassification of overtime.
Right, we read about those quite often.
And those can be substantial. There was a class that was certified for discrimination against women in the Walmart system.
Yeah.
that went all the way to the Supreme Court, and they turned it down for class certification.
Really?
And that was going to involve many women that were employed by Walmart, but ultimately the Supreme Court declined to certify it.
Well, and I'm just thinking this is the perception. Okay, I'm not saying this is my perception, but I think the perception is that class action attorneys are sort of out there like ambulance chasers looking for these kinds of cases, rather than a situation where, like the Exxon case, where you have a plaintiff coming and saying, look, I know this is wrong, and how much would it cost each franchisee to hire his own attorney for basically the same kind of claim, right?
Well, where is the outrage for the corporations spending all the money to defend?
That's a good point.
Right, those could be profits to shareholders.
Yeah.
Well, but the fact is that the defendants in these cases are paying the lawyers all along, and nobody seems to be outraged with those lawyers.
Yeah, but they're not the ones who are starting it, though, right? Someone's bringing them a case where suddenly they now have to hire attorneys.
Well, should individuals in the United States of America be entitled to file lawsuits if they've been aggrieved? And the answer ought to be yes.
Yeah.
And will some lawsuits be filed that aren't meritorious? Yes.
But that happens whether it's a class action or not.
Exactly.
I mean, it's economies of scale.
It is a good word to use with class actions, and in fact, as a matter of legal theory, the courts would be swamped if you have a class of a million people that had this credit card transactions, and they were all bringing their individual lawsuits. The courts could not handle it.
Well, that brings me to the most recent case that has been in the news, and this has to do with Honda. And there is a woman who is deciding not to join the class action suit, and basically the suit has to do with mileage. Apparently she bought the car thinking she was going to get 50 or 60 miles to the gallon because it's a hybrid, and apparently it's being determined that she's only getting about 30 miles per gallon.
That's a big difference.
That's a pretty good size difference, and I guess they're trying to prove that Honda's to blame for this. So there's a class action suit going on, and she's deciding that she happens to be coincidentally an attorney, but she's not acting as an attorney. In this case, she's acting as just a plaintiff. And she's deciding that it's better for her, because I guess the dollar amount involved, to go to small claims court, which is now up to $10,000. So I was going to ask Peter on this, like, at what point does one decide, no, I want to do a small claims court on my own case? Because here was one of the advantages that she thought was the fact that in small claims court, the defense, or neither one actually, gets to have lawyers in the courtroom. So Honda, if they respond to this or don't respond, they're going to need to have some employee who's not an attorney represent them. So, how does one decide, like, what's...
Well, an individual going to an attorney seeking representation has to present their case, and during a discussion with the attorney, it may come up. The individual may think about a class action on their own, or they may ask the attorney about it, or the attorney may find out, well, are there other people that this is happening to help prove the case, and it may come out. Bringing a class action requires an individual to be the named class representative, and sometimes more than one will be named, and that person has special duties because they're not just bringing the case for themselves, but they're bringing it on behalf of a class.
And as a potential claimant, you can opt out. I mean, not everybody has to be part of the lawsuit. Like this lady, she's saying, no, I'm going to opt out and do my own case.
Yeah.
So at least she has the choice.
That is correct. When a class is certified, the court will notify all of the class members, and there's an issue about who pays for that, but it's typically done by a postcard or something like that. And individuals can make a decision. And they can decide, I don't want to be part of this class. Now there's some other exceptions to this rule. In some instances, you're automatically included unless you opt out. But in most cases, you're not. You need to make this decision
to actually opt in.
So you get that thing in the mail where you're supposed to take some kind of action. It tells you.
It tells you you have a period of time to opt out.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's kind of the best of both worlds, because then at least it's up to the individual person.
Mm-hmm.
They may say, you know what, if I do have a claim here, okay, I'll take it on myself and try to figure out who to sue, which is usually kind of hard to do. Mark, do you have any last minute questions?
Yeah, well, I have one that like a class action that actually kind of hit home for me. I'm a member of a timeshare, and that timeshare did a special assessment in addition to the rather expensive annual maintenance fees that you pay, like nearly $1,000 for most decent timeshares. And well, we got this bill in the mail for a special assessment for $2,000, which we didn't pay, and apparently a lot of others didn't pay either. And a group apparently got together, and they were able to put a class, obviously large enough, but not a big class, certainly not involving thousands or millions of people, but they successfully sued in California this vacation club. And it was determined that those special assessments were not legal. So that was there was an example of a relatively small group of people getting together and successfully suing in a class.
Well, and actually in that case, rather than the typical situation where you're the plaintiffs trying to extract money, you guys were the defendants.
Yeah.
Trying to not pay.
Well, if they were sued, they were defendants. They may have filed what we call a declaratory relief action.
Okay, you're getting
Right.
a little bit too particular here. I'm a layman, remember, I get to use these terms, but... Welcome, you're listening to the Best of Investing on News Talk 910, sponsored by Pacific Trade Exchange, your best in exchange trade. Check them out at pacifictradeexchange.com. This is the show where we present valuable information about real estate, the financial markets, and other economic business of the day. For those of you listening for the first time, here is our format. A few guys sitting around a bar having drinks without the drinks, talking business with you, the audience, listening in. I'm your host, Edward Brown, and I'm pleased to have as my co-host Mark Hanf of Pacific Private Money, California's fastest growing private lender, and Robert Schiff of RPM Mortgage. Our phone number is 888-912-1190. Now write that number down, 888-912-1190. 912-1190 because you're going to use that number to answer the trivia questions for 3 vacations given away during each commercial break. That's right, we're giving away 9 vacations during this show. The vacations are sponsored by Lighthouse Resort and Marina, located 1 hour northeast of San Francisco. The vacations are free. Their only request, a $75 cleaning fee to cover housekeeping expenses. Their website is lighthouse4fun.com. You can reach them at 916-777-5511. And today's trivia theme is men who played women or vice versa in the movies. And you'll understand.
Where do you get these terms?
People send them to me. I don't know. Our website is bestofinvesting.com. Check us out on Facebook and YouTube by typing Best of Investing Radio Show. And we're also on television now. Comcast Channel 26 on Saturdays at noon and Sundays at 6 p.m. Don't forget to also record our show on a website called dar.fm. And a couple of housekeeping items here. Quick reminder again, World Wraps in Corte Madera and Santa Clara is still giving our listeners a free smoothie with purchase of a wrapper bowl. If you mention the Best of Investing, go there for lunch today. Best wraps in town, and don't forget to mention the Best of Investing for your free smoothie. Also, a few weeks ago we had Stefan Piscano on our show, and his website, realbay.com, is now up and running, so check them out for free online real estate auctions. Now, today we have an extra special guest. His name is Peter Lacour, and I've known him for many, many years, and he's going to be discussing municipal bonds with us because he is the muni bond expert. Peter,
Awesome.
Welcome to the Best of Investing.
Thanks, Edward. Great to be here.
Okay, good. Go ahead and just come right in and tell us, quick definition, what are muni bonds?
Well, I'm going to do a little municipal bond 101 here, just to start off. What is a muni? A municipal bond is a debt obligation. It's a lot like a mortgage. It's issued by a state, a county, a city, and they do that to raise money to fund projects for the public good. That would include police stations, fire stations, freeways, sewer and water, et cetera, et cetera. Some of the nuts and bolts of muni bonds, bond issues are as small as $1 million, or they can be well over a couple of billion. California general obligations, very large. They have a fixed rate of pay, a fixed maturity date. They're sold in multiples of $5,000. But the biggest thing with munis, by far, the most important characteristic is they're tax-free. So people buy municipal bonds for their relative safety.
Okay, and you
Not to say relative nowadays.
Yeah, that's right. What are the yields that we're looking at for California munis?
On the short term, probably 2 to 3% on, say, 5, 6, 7 years in that range. 4 to 5 tax-free on longer term bonds, and 6 to 8% in the high yield market, which those would include tobacco bonds, which are pretty fascinating little sector of the
Tobacco
market.
bonds, really?
Yeah,
Yeah, and people react just like that with tobacco. Yeah, so.
exactly.
What is a tobacco
So
bond?
what are they?
Yeah.
Well, actually, tobacco bonds came to being in the 1990s when we had all the litigation going on. Remember Marlboro Lights and constant lawsuits?
Sure.
Oh, right, the settlement, right?
Yeah, it was called an MSA agreement, the Master Settlement Agreement in 1998. This is when Big Tobacco settled the ongoing lawsuits with all of the states. It was pretty fascinating, actually, and the deal was Big Tobacco, and Big Tobacco would be like Altria, Philip Morris, RJ Reynolds, which
Sure.
is Reynolds America right now. These are excellent companies, actually. Altria is a $64 billion market cap company, pays a 6% dividend. So these are companies that are in high-grade equity portfolios.
And plus, one of them makes Purina cat chow, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
But so you're not talking corporate bonds, though. You're saying that that's a type of muni bond?
No, this was part of, to go on with the story,
Tobacco, yeah.
Yeah.
they had this settlement. So in order to settle anybody who produces tobaccos, i.e. Altria, had to kick money into a pot, so to speak. And then those monies are doled out to the states on a pro rata basis. So depending on how many cigarettes you produce, you put that many money in the pot, that's divided up and paid to the states. So what did the states do almost immediately? They have this income coming in. Well, with all the fiscal budgets, everybody needs money. They're like,
borrowed
hey,
against it, didn't
well,
they?
you know what we're going to do is we're going to
Borrow against an annuity, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Got it. That
we
makes
want
sense.
our money up front, so they floated issued bond issues that are secured by the revenue stream from these tobacco players.
So it's as safe as the tobacco
Exactly.
companies
That's
putting
why
in.
that's why I'm mentioning Altria and the
So
quality
keep
of these
smoking and
companies.
keep our kids in school.
Exactly.
Well, some of these companies probably do a lot more than just tobacco, and that may be a minor percentage of their total worth.
Absolutely. Well, the strength of the revenue stream, which is key, is just the quality of those companies. So the states go ahead and float these bond issues, and so in the late 90s, you had all these bonds come to market. There's currently about $40 billion of tobacco securitization is exactly what they're called. And
Let me ask you, what's the yield on that kind of bond right now?
well, when they came out, they were about 5 to 6%. And then what we've seen over the past decade or so is they've gotten cheaper for a number of reasons. One, supply and demand, there's 40 billion of them. That's a lot of bonds out there. Two, there's kind of a negative stigma with the bonds
Sure.
because, you say the word tobacco and, I don't want any tobacco, anything to do with tobacco.
Yeah.
When actually they're almost, you could look at them as an anti-tobacco bond.
Yeah, because
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
Now, are those bonds rated? Are they just rated?
When they came out, they were investment grade. So investment grade is going to be BAA up to AAA. These were BAA. Recently, they've been downgraded below. That's another reason why they're trading a little
That's
bit
the higher
cheaper.
yield.
So,
Okay.
yeah, what is the yield right now on an average?
Currently, the tobacco market trades probably between 7 and 8% tax-free.
Wow,
So-
both federal and California
That's
tax free?
Absolutely.
Now, are the tobacco companies' balance sheets safe enough right now? Are they paying? So far, are you
Yeah,
seeing?
absolutely.
In other words, they haven't missed any payments, have they?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
Well, one of the reasons why they're cheaper, as I said, one, the word tobacco, and people shy away from them. There's a lot of the bonds out there. And also, it's tied to the consumption of tobacco. Now, that was part of the agreement, the settlement. They figured declining smoking rates.
Yeah.